monastic lives and journals and everything. You're like, that sounds great, but like, whew, I can't do that. Yes, you can. Like
Yeah.
spiritual motherhood is a gift that every woman is meant to grab onto and live, right? Remember, like through the love of God for you and Mary's collaboration with you.
Yep.
Remember what St. Augustine says, a woman is God's special weapon in his fight against evil.
Yeah.
Which means that you're given everything that you need. Just in the fact that you're created, you're breathing, and you're existing right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough, right? And it has to do with the way that you receive other people into your own heart. And I remember reading one time, I think I've talked about this book on the CU as my pick of the week, but it's called Beginning to Pray by
Anthony Bloom.
By Anthony Bloom, yeah. And he has this little like part at the end that's kind of like shoved in there, but it's on intercessory prayer. And basically he doesn't say anything about it except for this experience that a monk had where like he was asked, how he prayed for other people. And he was also like the kind of foreman at a factory or something. I don't know what monk. But he said that the way that he would pray for his workers, and this would be what he did like most of the day, he would pray for his workers by like imagining himself inside that person's life and being like, well, John's wife is pregnant. So, praying with that and then praying for their kids and kind of like going through the motions of their life as if he was that person.
Yeah.
And so women, I think, have a particular way to live out spiritual maternity like that, right? Yeah. As intercessory prayer. But not just like, well, pray for so-and-so, pray for so-and-so, pray for so-and-so, but really to do that, right? To animate, to allow other lives to animate ourselves so that we can bring those lives to God, right? And it begins with care and compassion, right? I'm not generally not gonna pray for someone because I don't care about them, but even the way that I pray should demonstrate my compassion for them, right? So, and no matter what it is, whether you're like praying outside an abortion clinic, whether you're visiting someone in a nursing home, you're teaching CCD, you're serving at a soup kitchen, those are all activities of spiritual mothers.
Yes.
Right, and it comes down to you'll hear about, Kathleen can definitely speak to this. Like you'll hear about transformative experiences that people have, especially women in crisis, and sometimes it's like, someone listened to me, someone smiled at me, someone bought me food. It's not. Yeah,
someone looked me in the eyes. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's rarely ever going to be like someone bought me a car or someone waved a sign or something. Like it's someone who recognized me as a person. And women have this maybe unparalleled ability to do that because our brains are set up to think relationally, neurologically. That's where we are. Psychologically, that's where we are. Yeah. And because that's what's happening on the level of the soul for us too.
Yeah.
And so John Paul II, who, like I said, really kind of pioneered the way forward when it comes to this idea of the feminine genius and spiritual motherhood, he says in Mulieris Dignitatem that this moral and spiritual strength of a woman is joined to her awareness that God entrusts the human being to her in a special way. And that word, that idea of entrustment is huge with John Paul, because he realizes that like there's a gift that one woman, it's a gifted situation that one woman is given to another, or one person is given to another, and that the woman who receives that soul, right, as a shelter, as a refuge, feels a sense of responsibility for that person, right? They understand that they have been entrusted with this gift, this precious life, because they can, through the eyes of Mary and through the eyes of God, can see that the dignity of that person. And so that's what kind of like draws us into praying for that person, helping to meet that person's needs, helping that person to be who they're called to be, right? That's what entrustment is. That's what spiritual maternity is. And, a woman's awareness that people are entrusted to her then leads her to entrust them to God, right? We're never called to be like a bomb shelter, right? That's not the kind of shelter we're called to be. We need to be this kind of open air shelter where people come to us and then we can let them go. People come to us and then we can let them go. But we're not letting them go out into the unknown unprepared. We're bringing them to God, right? We're a way station. We're not the final destination.
Well, that was always the image my favorite image of Mary was that she drew people into her, and then like like there's one of my favorite statues of Mary is in St. Matthew's Cathedral in Washington D.C.
Oh yeah.
And it's Mary coming out of the cosmos, coming out of the sky, and she's reaching down to the people, while at the same time with her other hand she's reaching up, like come on, like I'm about to bring you into something so much better and so much greater. It's not a look at me, but come with me.
Yeah, and that's a really great model for spiritual maternity too, because it's not this attitude of superiority, right? It's not like I know better than you, so you need to listen to me. But it's, I know where you want to go, right? I see the things that pain you. I see the things that weigh on you, and I know that there's a better way. So let me show you that way, right? But it happens in all humility, recognizing that like I don't have the answers, and I'm not asked to have all the answers. But if I know the destination, I can point the way, right? So all of this is part of why there's this special kind of vocation of the spiritual motherhood of priests. I think about Sister Philomena Marie, formerly Katie Richard, who is, a dear friend of mine, and who specifically has this particular motherhood for priests and religious order. That's one of the charisms of the religious order that she is professing her first vows for soon. So
just a few weeks. That's right.
Yeah, in just a few weeks. So pray for her. But the whole idea of that kind of spiritual motherhood for priests is specifically devoting that motherhood, right, that is intended towards the care of all people, and to be that shelter for people, and devoting it to the sanctification of priests, right? To offer prayer and sacrifices for their holiness, because they're fathers. So then their holiness, if a priest is holy, then his congregation will feel the effects of that sanctity, right?
That's right.
Then they will be made holier in turn.
Yeah, no priest is an island. Like, there's no such thing as a lone wolf priest, because we always have to be connected to a bishop, right? That's where our faculties come from. But there's no lone wolf priest when it comes to being a father as well. We always must have those who are our mothers, We always must have those who are our sister collaborators as well. We can't live in a vacuum, and that's a way for a priest to atrophy, is if he has no experience of the feminine in his life, or very little. I would say the same thing of any man, actually, but priesthood especially.
Preach it. Yeah. Well, and I've seen that like in Kathleen too. Like even last week when she was talking about like talking to priests who are kind of struggling with how to do life in quarantine, and I was just listening to her talking about her conversations with them, and I'm like, that's spiritual motherhood. Like if you want it on display, it's that right there. It's gentle, but it's firm. And it's still like, I'm going to pray for you, right? It's always underlined with that reality that in the end, we have our trust placed in the transcendent Lord of the universe. So all of our problems will be like air to him, and we can devote everything to him. And so it's really this complementarity, right? This complementarity of men and women that we see played out specifically in the intercession of priests and religious in the church. And it's that complementarity that we see between Mary and Jesus, right? Think of the wedding at Cana when Mary says to Jesus, they have no wine, right? And her specific intercession on behalf of the people at that wedding is what calls Jesus to his first act of his first public witness to his divinity. Yeah. Right. And she doesn't, force it out of him. She doesn't say like, you have to do this, or she doesn't cry. She doesn't manipulate him, whatever. She just tells him the problem. He responds back, and she just turns around and says, do whatever he tells you.
Yeah.
Right? That's intercession.
In the same way that Jesus looks at the rich young man, loves him, and says, go sell what you have, give it to the poor, and then come follow me. Mary looks at her son, loves him, and then says, do whatever he tells you. You get the sense that he learns that activity, that kind of activation of ministry from her.
Yeah, exactly. And so like if you ever maybe doubt like, well, what can I do, like in spiritual motherhood, or you maybe have that kind of temptation to think of it as like a consolation prize. Think about that, right? Think about Mary's intercession for these people who were not her children, right? They were maybe family, but they were not her children, her biological children. But she loves them to the point of doing something about it and interceding on behalf of her son. And then, and what happens is Jesus's first miracle, right? So miracles can happen through spiritual motherhood and the intercession of spiritual mothers.
True.
And so I'll just close with this line from John Paul II's letter to women, talking about how women have this vocation to love. So he says, "For in giving themselves to others each day, women fulfill their deepest vocation. Perhaps more than men, women acknowledge the person because they see persons with their hearts. They see them independently of various ideological or political systems. They see others in their greatness and limitations. They try to go out to them and to help them." Right? That's what it is to be a woman. It's very simple, right? We see with the heart, we desire to love and to help, and so we go out, right? We go out of ourselves to them, and then we receive that person into ourselves so that we can bring them to God, right? That's it. That's spiritual love.
That's exactly right, and that's why the Mother of Jesus always guides the heart of women who kind of wade into that spiritual motherhood, because she has that one vocation of leading everyone to her son. So thanks Olivia and Kathleen for giving us a little time to sit at the feet in the school of Mary. So very cool. All right. Well, if you're new to the show, this is now that part of the show that we like to call the CU Pick of the Week. And for our first CU Pick of the Week, let's go to, I'm going to do it again, Kathleen, Olivia.
Yay!
What's your pick of the week?
All right, so my pick of the week is actually something that maybe I should have done last week for the sake of continuity, but it's about St. Joseph. I'm realizing and talking to people, especially because I feel like St. Joseph is having his day more and more.
Yeah, for sure.
That people maybe want to read about St. Joseph, but they're not sure what to read. And so my pick of the week is I guess you could call it like a homily, but it's like really long. I'm not sure what exactly it was originally intended as, but it's St. Jose Maria Escriva writing about St. Joseph, and it's called it's a chapter of a book. There you go. So it's a chapter of a book called Christ is Passing By, and it's a chapter called In Joseph's Workshop. And so it's just him thinking about the life of Jesus and Joseph together and what Jesus would have learned from Joseph, the kind of virtuous man that Joseph was. But I mean, if you know St. Jose Maria Escriva, you know that he has such a poetic kind of way of looking at the world. And so he really is describing St. Joseph as like this master of the interior life. And so it's a spiritual reading, and it's really, really well done.
Very cool. Yeah. How about you, Kathleen? Your pick of the week.
Okay. I was in Walmart, my favorite place of all places, last week. They're running together because I make several trips to Walmart because I love it so much. And I was looking for a cookbook, a specific cookbook. And this caught my eye. This is Life Magazine's issue on Mary. And it's actually
it's very big.
A reissue of a classic edition. But it is beautiful. There's all kinds of talks about, Marian traditions and Marian apparitions, and there's beautiful, beautiful. This is the back of it. Our Lady, it's so beautiful.
Oh, is that Our Lady of Fatima?
Oh wow.
Yes, it's just such a great thing. It's on it says display until 7/10, so you have until July.
It'll be around.
But this is a reissue, so I'm sure that they will reissue again.
Sure.
It's beautiful and very, very well done. So I picked this as my pick of the week before I even read our show notes today. So thanks, Mama.
Yeah, there you go. Yay. Very cool. I guess it's time for my pick of the week. My pick of the week is, in fact, a cookbook of sorts. As a kind of birthday gift, I guess. One of my little spiritual brothers, who is more like a brother to me than, I can even say. I'm talking about Taylor Vignaroli, the Vignarolis in Wyoming, who, I'm now deeply ensconced in the family. I've baptized one of their kids. Or one of their grandkids. So that makes you part of the family, It's true. Anyway, so Taylor got me a copy of Flour, Water, Salt, Yeast. This is a fantastic book by Ken Forkish, which is an odd last name, but indeed that's his name. And it goes into kind of the science behind the baking of bread, as well as the different types of bread, the different types of yeast, all of the different kind of sub-sciences and the art of baking. And so I, of course, have been, doing a little bit. In fact, I've got the oven preheating right now because I've got to go do one more fold of a ciabatta loaf that I'm getting ready to make. So my pick of the week, flour, water, salt, yeast by Ken Forkish. I'll put that in the show notes for sure. So that if you want to get into this last little bit of baking before we slowly peek ourselves out of the cave, then that's the thing to go. All right, you can always let us know what your picks of the week are by going to CatholicUnderground.com and leaving us a little note there in backchat, or you can always email at backchat@CatholicUnderground.com. That's the way to do it. And I guess I should say, as of today, we have an Amazon Fire TV app. So if you're on the Fire TV platform and you'd like to watch our live show or look at all of our other offerings, like maybe Father Ryan's COVID Catechism, or if you want to watch the Mass that I celebrate on weekday mornings, Monday through Friday at 8:30 Central Time, or Sunday 11 a.m. Central Time, or if you want to join in at 9 p.m. Central Time for our check-in and night prayer, you can do that on your Amazon Fire TV. At least I think you can. I haven't tested it completely yet, but it's all there. And then for those of you, of course, we do have a Roku app and all those things, but Fire TV is a new platform that, since I had nothing better to do, I learned how to work, so it worked out fine.
Excellent.
Yes. So this week, the Catholic Underground is possible because of people just like yourself. You can join the growing number of undergrounders at CatholicUnderground.com/donate. And an important way to support us is to like us, or to heart us, or to star us, and to share us on your social media platform of choice. And if you really like our podcast, you can pop by iTunes or Spotify or wherever you consume your podcast, and you can leave us a review and click those stars. That would be very, very helpful as well, or hearts, or whatever they are. So our panelist this week is, Kathleen, right? Kathleen is the benefactress. She's at Kaylee626 on Instagram if you want to follow all of her stuff. Thank you, Kathleen, for joining us.
Anytime.
We've also had Olivia Galino on the air with us. She's at the.real.omg on Instagram and on Twitter as well. Right, Olivia?
It's true. No shaking your head, Kathleen.
Actually, Olivia's tweets are always really interesting to read. So yeah, I'd recommend that on the Twitter.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Kathleen, you're not on the Twitter, are you?
No, I'm in AM somewhere, but I don't know.
Oh, but I see. You just don't check your Twitter. I get it. Yeah. Our technical director is typically Jeff Blackwell at Jeff Blackwellis. Our research assistant and the leader of the crew in the lab is Jim Hayes. Our video and graphics director when we're in the studio is Ed Ball, and you know me. I am Father Chris. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Digital Catholic, and we hope that we've helped you cut through the noise and find that still small voice. We are the Catholic Underground, where faith gone digital in quarantine, and we'll see you next time. All righty, so we're a little bit early, and the broadcast just dropped off.
I saw that.
At about 40 minutes in, because we were having a good conversation. And remember, Satan hates social media, especially when it's oriented towards Catholicism and talking about the things that are true. And he especially hates chatter about Mary. So so what I'm going to do while we're still on the air here is I'm just going to record a little filler so you can stay right where you are. And as always, remain indoors. So hold on just a second. I'm going to record that. Hey, Father Chris here. We had a brief interruption in this quarantine edition of Catholic Underground, but we now join the conversation on spiritual motherhood already in progress. Sorry about that. It's the internets. Okay, I don't know if that covers the entire time, but, it should do the trick. Yeah. All right, well...
It's okay.
Is that right? I make a lamb for you. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us in the chat room. Sorry we split this into two files, but you guys recovered very well because pretty much all of you came back into the chat room. So, all right, hope to see you next week, if not before. Have a good evening, everybody. I don't know how to stop this broadcast. I was going to let that be my... Oh, wait, there it is. Good night, everybody.